Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Hokage. My ninjutsu effects are maxed out. Chapter 41. Kurotsuchi was held by Conan and flew into the air. His face was full of grievances. His grandfather, who had always been obedient to him before, didn't hear his cry for help at all this time. And he's still smiling to himself. Kurotsuchi is desperate. I even wondered if I picked it up next to the trash can. After all, his legs are so long, Onoki is not as long as his own legs. In fact, Kurotsuchi would still be willing to leave with Lumu or Didera. But why is Conan here too? Let me go, you ugly old witch. Conan's body froze while he was flying, and he almost fell down. Old witch, ugly, I am only in my early 20s, so I am in my youth and have nothing to do with being an old person. As for the ugly ones, my appearance is definitely a beauty in the ninja world, yet I am called ugly. Conan felt unhappy for a while. If you are sure you want me to let go, just look down before you speak. Kurotsuchi glanced down and suddenly trembled all over. 2 tears kept rolling in his eyes. You bullied me, I want brother Hayata to help me take revenge. Hayata is Luemu's name in Iwagakure. I was still with Conan when I used the transformation technique. But I didn't expect it to be so successful. After the transformation technique ended, the other party was still willing to believe in the existence of Hayata. Conan had to admire Luemu's control over people's hearts. To be honest, when Conan heard that the old witch was ugly, he wanted to throw the black soil away. But Kurotsuchi is the link between the Akatsuki organization and the Iwagakure alliance. It is an important step in the establishment of Akatsuki organization. It was an opportunity that Lumu exchanged for his body. No matter how unhappy you are, you have to face it with a smile. But there is one thing Conan must make clear. Although you and your master are together in name, you will never win his heart. Hearing Conan's words, Kurotsuchi exploded instantly. His fear of heights was overcome in an instant. He turned around and glared at Conan, then grabbed him with both hands. What do you say again? I'm going to tear your face apart. Lumu and Didera sat comfortably on the big white clay bird, following behind Conan. Hayata, you see the relationship between the two of them is really good, so they started to play. Lumu was stunned for a moment, and then looked at Didera strangely. You call this a good relationship? They both started fighting. I'm going to start pulling my hair, I'm starting to pull my clothes. Didera, please hurry up. Didera smiled awkwardly. I just wanted to find a topic, otherwise the two of them would be embarrassed on the bird. Now that Lumu had given the order, Didera was naturally ready to perform well. Okay, I'll catch up immediately and separate the two of them. Why separate? Didn't you ask me to break up the fight? Calling a fight? Oh, yes, that's what I mean, Lumu said with sweat streaming down his forehead. A trace of regret arose in my heart. After all, the current viewing angle is a bit bad and I can't see anything. Not long after, the two women were pulled away by Didera. They all sat on Didera's big white bird, and each one tail was sulking. This made Didera, who was already embarrassed, even more confused. By the way, morning. Senior Lu, how strong are you now? Didera held it in for a long time and finally asked. Conan also perked up his ears. We know Lumu is very strong, but we don't know how strong Lumu is. After all, every time Lumu made a move, it seemed like he could almost destroy the ninja world. Luemu's strength has exceeded Conan's imagination. It's just Chunan's strength, Lumu replied subconsciously. The white bird suddenly became quiet. However, it only lasted for a few seconds before being broken by the laughter of several people. You, Chunin. Didera laughed so hard that he almost shed tears. Lumu is only as strong as Chunin. A Chunin beat the 3rd Tsuchikage to despair. Why don't you talk about Genin and destroy the founder of the ninja world? And just 3 ninjutsu. No matter which ninjutsu, no Chunin can cast it. If this were Chunin, then everyone in the ninja world might not even be considered a ninja. Okay, stop joking. If you don't want to say it, don't say it. Lumu became unhappy. No one in the room believed him when he told the truth, and even laughed at him. For a moment, Lumu felt evil in his heart. Don't you want to know? Then I will make up a random story to see if you believe it or not. Then Lumu lowered his voice and whispered, actually, I shouldn't have said it, but you are all people I trust, so I won't hide it. Actually, I came from another world. I felt that the ninja world would face an unprecedented crisis, a shocking conspiracy, and even the entire ninja world might be destroyed, so I appeared. For a moment, the three people had shocked expressions on their faces. There was a faint look of fear in his eyes. Lumu looked at the expressions of the three people and couldn't help but twitch the corners of his mouth. I believe it. Conan frowned and walked quickly. What Lumu said just now was really shocking. There is a huge conspiracy in the ninja world, which may cause the entire ninja world to collapse. This is no longer a matter of peace or non-peace. Rather, it is a matter of major concern to the entire human race. It's okay if you don't know, but now that Conan knows, you can't just sit idly by and watch. No matter who the enemy is, we must stop him. Conan pushed open the long door to the room and walked in without hesitation. Nagato looked sluggish, but when he saw Conan coming over, a smile suddenly appeared on his face. Why are you so frizzy? This doesn't look like you, Conan. Did something happen to Deidara? Conan had no intention of answering Nagato's words. Instead, he slapped his hands hard on the table. Nagato is in trouble. Nagato was startled by Conan's reaction. With Conan's character, he is definitely not a person with random thoughts. And under normal circumstances, they would go to pain instead of here. And if you get here, it is definitely not a trivial matter. What happened? Did you offend Tsuchikage? Nagato asked anxiously. Conan shook his head slightly. Then he looked at Nagato with solemn eyes. Do you know the origin of Senior Lu? Origin? Senior Lu is the savior sent by God. Conan said excitedly. Savior? Is this reliable? Nagato couldn't help but frown. The reason why he is called the savior shows that the world is in danger and may even be destroyed. The savior is the one who saves the world. Although a savior appears, there is absolutely no way for people to escape. So Nagato is very concerned about the reliability of this statement. Absolutely reliable. This is what Senior Lu said himself. Can he still fool me? Nagato's face suddenly darkened. Since it was Lumu who said it, it can't be wrong. Then Nagato asked anxiously, besides this, did Senior Lu say anything else? Conan recalled. His face suddenly became serious. He said that someone is plotting against the ninja world and has a huge conspiracy. Nagato slammed the table angrily. There was a frightening expression on his pale face. A strong chakra pushed outward like a wave. All the ninjas raised their heads and looked in the direction of Nagato with confusion. Who is this? Is it the legendary Senior Lu? It's really terrifying. This is definitely Senior Lu, and only he has such an amazing amount of chakra. Nagato, what's going on? Zetsu, please go and find out the situation. Uchiha Obito became solemn. Ever since the so-called Senior Lu appeared, the policy of the Akatsuki organization has completely changed and it has become bolder than I expected. And Uchiha Obito found out. Nagato has neglected himself a lot. If this continues, his control over the Akatsuki organization will continue to decline. The most important thing is that Nagato has the Samsara Eye. With the current situation of a Sharingan, it is impossible for him to be his opponent. So now Uchiha Obito can only figure out the so-called Senior Lu. Then choose, brainwashing or controlling. You must be careful, don't be discovered. Aren't you worried about me doing things? Nagato kept taking in big breaths. I was really offended by Conan's words. The ninja world that I cherish so much and want to protect so much, there are still people who want to destroy it. Isn't ninjutsu from the ninja world fun anymore? Or are the girls in the ninja world not beautiful anymore? No matter what, as long as we cooperate with Senior Lu, we can definitely minimize the casualties. Thinking of Lumu, Nagato's face finally softened a lot. Well, I know, but have you noticed that Senior Lu is very anxious? He first went to the fire country to shock, and then went to Yenian village to marry and sacrifice himself. In fact, Senior Lu is the most tired. I'm afraid he won't be able to bear it. Nagato's expression turned ugly again. The greater the ability, the greater the responsibility on the shoulders. But thinking about Lumu, he kept consuming himself for the whole world. Nagato suddenly felt distressed. Senior Lu is so anxious, it means that there is not much time for the ninja world. Now that Senior Lu is entrusting Conan to you, you must ensure his safety. Especially psychologically. I will definitely unite all the small countries as soon as possible. Conan nodded slightly. Being able to serve a savior who is like a saint is definitely the most meaningful thing. As long as Lumu needs anything, he will never refuse. Even if you let yourself die. Lumu, who was lying on the bed and sleeping soundly, was suddenly awakened by a chill. I looked left and right several times and breathed a sigh of relief when I didn't find any enemies. I thought someone was plotting against me, but it seems it was just a dream. Zetsu ran towards Uchiha Madara's hiding place with a solemn expression. Now I have a bold idea. That is Uchiha Obito's rebellion. Otherwise, how could the conspiracy between him and Uchiha Madara be leaked out? Uchiha Madara's plans never mattered. But never delay your plan to save your mother. So you have to find Uchiha Madara as soon as possible. Ju passed through a sealed door, and behind it was a small room of less than 5 square meters. There was nothing else in the small room, only a thin man sitting cross-legged on the ground. The man's situation is very dire. Although there is still a trace of life, it is no different from death. The dry body showed no muscle at all. His breathing seemed to be gone, as if he would die at any time. The tightly closed eyes were sunken, as if their eyeballs had been gouged out. This body is like a mummy. If Onoki was there, he would definitely be able to recognize him at a glance. Because he is Uchiha Madara who fought with first Hokage Senju Hashirama in all directions. Oh no, something happened. Uchiha Madara's body trembled, and an impatient expression appeared on her thin face. Ju, didn't I tell you that if you have something to do, go to Obito, don't come to me? Uchiha Madara was a little angry. His vitality is almost gone and he is in danger of death at any time. Only by relying on secret techniques can one barely survive. Every time you are awakened and every time you speak, it is a huge consumption. The purpose is to stay alive and ensure that there are no surprises in the plan. As long as Nagato is completely brainwashed and absorbs the power of the tailed beast, he will be able to resurrect himself with the power of the Rinnegan. This is the purpose of giving Nagato the Rinnegan. If something unexpected happens to Nagato, then Uchiha Madara will also have the opportunity to choose the target again. This is why Uchiha Madara wants to live even in this state. Obito has rebelled. Uchiha Madara shuddered. I never expected that Uchiha Obito would rebel. You must know that Uchiha Obito is the most successful ninja brainwashed by Uchiha Madara. Moreover, Uchiha Obito is equipped with a special device inside his body. How about Uchiha Madara? I don't want to believe that Uchiha Obito would rebel. What exactly did you find? Uchiha Madara's hoarse voice sent out the sounds one by one. Heiju hurriedly recounted the whole story. After hearing this, Uchiha Madara was completely stunned. Savior, destroy the ninja world, Senior Lu. Uchiha Madara felt that he had been sleeping for too long and his brain was not used enough. What is this? But one thing Uchiha Madara understood. Senior Lu seemed to know something, but not everything. Otherwise it will be an absolute disaster. What Uchiha Madara has to do now is to know whether Uchiha Obito is really a traitor. If he rebels, then the next candidate will have to be found. Don't be anxious. Let's investigate first to see if Obito has rebelled. If so, kill him immediately. If not, let him kill Senior Lu. After Uchiha Madara finished speaking, he closed his mouth and fell into a deep sleep again. Zetsu looked at Uchiha Madara helplessly. Uchiha Madara can't be anxious, that's because she has never seen the power of an alien from outside. My dear mother is a member of the Otsutsuki family. Her strength can easily crush shadow-level experts, and even super shadow-level experts cannot threaten her. Such a powerful person is just a shame to the Otsutsuki family. Such a truly powerful existence is absolutely unthinkable. No matter what, just follow Madara's plan first. If that Senior Lu is really a visitor from outside the world, then I won't care. I will continue to work hard after he leaves. Lumu was lying on the bed. Little did he know that the Akatsuki organization was already in full swing secretly. Lumu slowly opened his eyes. He found Conan staring at him, wiping the corners of his eyes while watching. It seems that something very sad happened. Lumu was dumbfounded. He was lying down, while Conan stood beside him crying. I couldn't have slept to death. Lumu was so frightened that he jumped up. He kept touching himself with his hands, trying to see if he was really alive. Master, you're awake. Do you want to eat first, or? Conan paused, couldn't help laughing when he saw the tent, and continued, it's better to eat something else first. Lumu was stunned for a moment and then reacted. Feeling Conan's gaze, Lumu's face immediately turned red with embarrassment. Get out of here, and how did you get in? Lumu roared in his heart. Conan, if you want to commit suicide, I won't stop you, but please don't take me with you. Lumu is very annoyed, really annoyed. Ever since I came back from the Kingdom of Earth, I haven't had a day to rest quietly. Early every morning, you can always see Conan wearing a maid outfit, standing by the bed with a smile. Lumu even suspected that Conan just wanted to kill himself. Then a little later, Kurotsuchi ran over. After leaving Iwagakure, Kurotsuchi became much more restrained than when he was in Iwagakure, and he studied very seriously. But every time I meet Conan, it's like a chemical reaction, either pulling your hair or your clothes. The commotion made Lumu's room restless. There was no chance to even sleep back in the cage. Lumu is going crazy. Isn't it true that the Akatsuki organization has been very busy recently? Let's not talk about Conan, a related person, why he doesn't have any tasks. If you continue, I'm afraid everyone will go crazy. So Lumu decided that he must go to Pain to get a job. Lumu rushed to Pain's office in a hurry. My heart suddenly became tense. After all, Pain is also the apparent boss of the Akatsuki organization. Apart from entering Shao for the first time, this is Lumu's first time here. Push the door open and go in. I saw Pain in front of the table, constantly correcting documents, and the documents on both sides were piled almost as high as one person. Lumu was surprised. I knew Akatsuki organization had a lot of tasks, but I didn't expect it to be so many. I'm afraid even the shadows from the 5 major countries don't have such a heavy workload. But since I am so busy, I have never had a job of my own. This made Lumu have to suspect that Pain was trying to fill his own shoes. After all, Conan stays in his room all day long. Oh, Senior Lu, why are you here? When Pain saw Lumu coming in, he immediately put down what he was doing and hurriedly greeted him. It's like meeting a superior leader. But this made Lumu even more panicked. I always feel that Pain is yin and yang weird. Leader, you see I have been resting in the village for a month. Isn't it time for me to go on a mission? Lumu said embarrassedly. Pain trembled all over, with a look of admiration in his eyes. Is Akatsuki organization short of people? Shortage, very short. If it weren't for his inconvenience, Pain would have wanted to go out and do the mission. But Lumu couldn't move. Lumu wants to do big things, not just to make money. Need a good rest in the village. The Akatsuki organization has just been established. What missions are there? Senior Lu, please go back first. If there is a mission suitable for you, I will definitely notify you as soon as possible. Pain replied guiltily. I just want Lumu to rest more and not let himself get too tired. Lumu's face instantly turned pale. Who are you kidding if you don't have a mission? The table is filled with tasks. Pain's reaction was definitely because he was jealous of Conan. Lumu knows that beauty is a disaster. But I never thought that one day I would be in trouble because of this. This is the first time I discovered that Pain is so narrow-minded. Okay, Senior Lu, please go back first. I will definitely notify you if there is a mission. Pain issued an eviction order. After all, there is too much work behind it. If it continues to be delayed, it might affect Lumu's plan. Lumu also looked downcast. At this moment, the space around Lumu became distorted. A man wearing a red cloud black coat and a chrysanthemum mask suddenly appeared and blocked Lumu's way. This is Senior Lu, I'm so happy to meet Senior Lu. Uchiha Obito held Lumu's hands excitedly. Lumu's eye was shaken and his whole body fell apart. How did you come? Pain suddenly became nervous. On the surface, the Akatsuki organization is managed by himself and Conan, but behind the scenes there is also the masked man Uchiha Obito who advises. But since Lumu appeared, Pain was reminded again and again of the path of the Akatsuki organization. Pain discovers Uchiha Obito's strategy and becomes sketchy. Sooner or later it will harm the Akatsuki organization. Not as good as 1/10,000th of Lumu's careful plan. Moreover, Pain always felt that Uchiha Obito had no good intentions, so he gradually kicked him out of the core layer of Akatsuki organization. But Pain didn't dare to compete with Uchiha Obito. After all, Uchiha Obito makes Pain feel very dangerous. No matter in terms of strength or insidiousness. Senior Lu doesn't have any tasks to do. I happen to have one here. Uchiha Obito said and took out a scroll. Evil cult. Pain frowned. Pain had already received this task. There is a ninja in the kingdom of Sichuan who believes in the evil god cult. He is very powerful and has immortality. You can look for opportunities to be absorbed into the Akatsuki organization. The evil god sect asked the god Lumu to go, and he was definitely the most suitable candidate. But Pain always felt like something was wrong. Uchiha Obito is definitely planning something. Hidan. Lumu suddenly panicked. Hidan is a reckless man. He is different from others. Hidan is really not afraid of death and will not die. No matter how awesome the special effects are, who can stand it if Hidan draws a circle on the ground and then starts to harm himself? Just when Lumu was about to refuse, a familiar voice suddenly came to his ears. Ding dong. The latest mission has been detected. Go to Kawa no Kuni, and attract Hidan into the Akatsuki organization. Mission reward. Random reward. If you refuse the mission, your true strength will be exposed. Lumu was anxious. If his true strength is exposed, there are so many ruthless people in the Akatsuki organization, why don't he tear him down? And the one who dismantled himself first was definitely Pain. A bag of rice can resist several levels of magic, and it will definitely lead to death and no life. It just so happens that I've been staying in the village for too long, so I'll go to the country of Sichuan. Hearing Lumu's answer, Uchiha Obito's face became ecstatic. He jumped around Lumu. Great, then let me go with Senior Lu on this mission. Uchiha Obito said happily. Pain frowned. I always feel like Uchiha Obito is playing some trick. But thinking about Lumu's character, he is willing to sacrifice himself for the sake of the world. Even if Uchiha Obito is careful, how can he go astray? If you want to murder Lumu. Pain even laughed. In this world, no one who can murder Lumu has been born yet. Thinking of this, Pain felt a lot more relieved. Okay, I'll let you go on the mission of the country of Sichuan. Lumu cried in his heart. In front of him is the immortal evil god Hidan, and behind him is the old coin Uchiha Obito. It feels like it's really hard for me. After packing their luggage, Lumu and Uchiha Obito were preparing to set off, when suddenly Conan ran out quickly. Master, how could you leave me? Conan was breathing heavily, his face full of grievances. But when he saw Uchiha Obito next to him, he suddenly became alert. However, Uchiha Obito didn't take Conan seriously at all. I'm going on a mission, not for fun. Why do I have to take you with me? Suddenly Conan's face became even more aggrieved. I can be your mount and help you on your way. Lumu's heart skipped a beat. People say no. It's not fun to say the word, mount. But the practical value is really good. You can significantly reduce your travel time and enjoy the tenderness of the world. For a moment, Lumu coughed twice in embarrassment. Time is indeed urgent, so it would be the best choice for you to fly me there. What about me? Uchiha Obito said anxiously. This time I went on a mission with Lumu. The main thing is to find out Lumu's strength. If it is really like what Xie said, like a fairy, then I don't mind switching sides. But if Lumu's strength is average, then the kingdom of Sichuan is the place where Lumu is buried. It's a pity that Cheng Yaojin and Silly Bashan Conan appear halfway. Although Conan has an average mind, his strength is pretty good. It will be very inconvenient to start at that time. You, just figure it out yourself, let's go first. Conan gave a bad laugh, picked up Lumu and flew away. Angry Uchiha Obito gritted his teeth. After several hours of flying, Lumu and Conan finally arrived at Yuyan village in Kawano country. Tangan village is most famous for two things. The first is the hot spring. Since Yuyan village advocates peace and is an open ninja village, ninjas from surrounding countries like to come to Yuyan village for a hot spring bath during their breaks. Therefore, in Yuyan village, you can see ninjas from various villages. The second one is roses. Tangan village has special methods to cultivate roses, and has a very famous rose street, which is one of the must-have places for many young people to find love. So on the road, you can see young men and women holding hands while shopping everywhere. Definitely a forbidden place for singles. Lumu fell to the ground with a pale face. Although there was a trace of warmth on my back during the flight, my face was hit by the cold wind. His whole body was shivering from the cold. Master, it's my problem. Next time you hide in my clothes, you won't be so cold. People say no. I'm afraid that before I even hit the ground, I would be overwhelmed by the mountains. Maybe he will return to his hometown halfway. By the way, Master, Tangan village is famous for its hot springs. How about the two of us? Conan said with a flushed expression on his face. Luemu's mouth twitched. Don't do it, pain has already given me little shoes to wear. If you keep playing like this, you will kill me sooner or later. But the word, hot spring, fell directly into Luemu's ears. Hot spring. Great, let's go. Now I can no longer take care of the task. The first thing I need is to warm myself up. Lumu lay lazily in the hot spring. After a long journey, I soaked in the hot spring and felt that all the fatigue of the day disappeared. Sure enough, hot springs are a good thing. After soaking for a few minutes, Luemu's fatigue completely disappeared, and he immediately began to observe his surroundings. The hot spring pool is very big. It can be regarded as a small pond. Even if dozens of people come in at the same time, it can definitely accommodate it. But now seems not to be the peak time for hot spring bathing. At a glance, Lumu was the only one in the entire bath. However, at the junction of the men's and women's bathing areas, Lumu vaguely saw a figure, wiggling his buttocks. Luemu's eyebrows wrinkled directly. This person was obviously peeping. If it were at other times, Lumu would not necessarily take care of it, but now that Conan was taking a bath next door, Lumu had to take care of him. Then Lumu swam over angrily. I saw that the other person seemed to be in his 50s or 60s, and his white hair was dragged directly to the ground. Get closer and you can hear each other's laughter. One hand holds a pen and the other a notebook, seeming to be recording something. All go. Mishiro. Wow, this is the best. What are you doing? Lumu roared angrily. The other party was so frightened that he fell directly into the hot spring. Then he immediately jumped up, grabbed Luemu's mouth with one hand, and made a silencing gesture. Shish, keep your voice down. If we are discovered, you and I won't be able to eat and walk around. It's obviously you who's peeking, why do you want to involve me? Lumu thought dissatisfiedly, but when he saw the other person's face clearly, there was a shocked expression on his face. Then he quickly pushed the other person away. Pervy Sage. Jiraiya was stunned for a moment. Although this title was very appropriate, he still felt a little offended. It's not Pervy Sage, but, Jiraiya said, jumping to the side and making very exaggerated movements, listen up. Toad Sage just hides his name from the world, and everything he does is easy. I, the white-haired toad user of Sanin who is invincible in the entire world, the handsome boy who can silence a crying child, Jiraiya-sama, I am the handsome boy. Lumu was dumbfounded. When I watched the anime before, I thought this line was very perspective. But now that he heard this, Lumu felt like he was about to get embarrassed. The most important thing is that I am soaking in hot springs now. You don't even pay attention. Sure enough, I just gave her the wrong name, not the wrong nickname. Pervy Sage is indeed very lustful. Lumu said, completely ignoring Jiraiya who was frozen on the side, and swam back to the hot spring on his own. For a moment, Jiraiya felt his face gradually turn red. Himself is one of the Sanin. No matter where he goes, he is respected by others. Even the shadows of the 5 major countries would give 3 cents of face to him when they see him. But now he is looked down upon by a boy. My face suddenly felt a little uncomfortable. Then he hurriedly chased after him. Hey kid, I see there is chakra flowing in your body. You should be a ninja. Haven't you heard of the name Jiraiya, one of the Sanin? Of course I have. I saw Orochimaru not long ago. Lumu said impatiently. Jiraiya shuddered. There was an expression of disbelief on his face. The main reason why Jiraiya left Konoha village was to find Orochimaru. And persuaded him to return to Konoha village. But after searching for a long time, Orochimaru was nowhere to be found. But I never expected it. When I came to Yugakure village to collect materials, I heard traces of Orochimaru. Immediately, Jiraiya became excited. Two hands directly grabbed Luemu's shoulders. Have you seen Orochimaru? Tell me where you saw it. Only then did Lumu react. Jiraiya and Orochimaru at this time are almost equivalent to Uzumaki Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke later. As long as Jiraiya knows Orochimaru's information, Jiraiya will definitely rush forward regardless of his own safety. But now Orochimaru is in the Akatsuki organization. If Jiraiya is allowed to go to the Akatsuki organization, unexpected friction will definitely occur. What, Orochimaru? You are such a strange person. Lumu said and wanted to run away. But Jiraiya wasn't that easy to fool. He rushed directly in front of Lumu, and the chakra on his body gradually increased sharply. Either you defeat me today or tell me Orochimaru's information, otherwise it will be absolutely impossible to get out of here. Lumu laughed bitterly. I didn't expect that a problem would arise after taking a bath in a hot spring. If I had known that I would go directly to complete the task, there would not be so many things to worry about. Lumu quickly calmed down. If he meets other ninjas, Lumu really doesn't know how to deal with them. But against pervy sage Jiraiya, there is a ninjutsu move developed by Uzumaki Naruto, which can definitely kill him instantly. Yeah, let's try it then. Jiraiya looked at Lumu in surprise. The chakra on Luemu's body seemed to have only the content of Chunin. But he actually dared to fight with himself. And he was full of confidence. Jiraiya sneered. Originally he just wanted to stop Lumu, but now Jiraiya doesn't mind teaching him a lesson. Jiraiya then clapped his hands together, preparing to use ninjutsu. But at this moment, Lumu formed the seal at a faster speed. In less than a second, the seal was completed. How is it possible? It's so fast. Jiraiya looked at Lumu in disbelief. This speed was far beyond that of ordinary ninjas. Even he, one of the Sannin, could never form seals at such a fast speed. Jiraiya had to get serious. With such a fast seal formation speed, Lumu can no longer be treated as an ordinary ninja. Let me see what ninjutsu you want to do. I saw a burst of smoke rising in front of me, blocking all Jiraiya's sight. Jiraiya kept waving his hands, trying to find Luemu's figure in the thick smoke. At this moment, a figure vaguely emerged from the thick fog. Jiraiya raised the corners of his mouth slightly, opened his right hand and grabbed Luemu's neck. Caught it. Boy, you are still too young. Jiraiya smiled proudly. At this time, the thick fog gradually receded, and the facial features on the opposite side gradually became clearer. When Jiraiya saw Luemu's face clearly at this time, his heart beat rapidly, like an engine, thump, thump, thump. At this time, Luemu's face had turned into that of a girl. Although she is not a queen, she is not a very beautiful woman. But the nose, eyes, and even the entire facial features directly struck Jiraiya's heart. It was like a woman who walked out of Jiraiya's dream. A glance and a smile made Jiraiya tremble all over. Jiraiya let go. Although he knew that this was Luemu's transformation technique, when facing this face, Jiraiya couldn't think of a single thought of persecuting her. Who dared to hurt her even a single hair, Jiraiya would fight to the death, to protect her, and to spend his whole life with her. Are you okay? Jiraiya suppressed the restlessness in his heart, swallowed, and said hesitantly. Lumu looked at his limbs. I want to see how complete the seduction technique is. The seduction technique was successful, but not completely successful. I remember that when Naruto Uzumaki performed it, he was completely naked in the mist. But when I performed it, I was wearing all my clothes and pants. This disappointed Lumu, but the effect seems to be very successful. Jiraiya's defense was completely broken, his face was red as if he was looking at his first love. Being stared at by a grown man, Lumu suddenly felt very uncomfortable and even a little disgusted. But in order to win, Lumu pretended to be pitiful. What do you think? It hurts me to death. Me, I didn't mean it, Jiraiya replied anxiously, fearing that his slow answer would make Lumu angry. Then you can leave. Jiraiya was stunned for a moment, and found that Lumu fell to the ground at this time, and his way was blocked by Jiraiya's hands on the left and right. Suddenly Jiraiya jumped up anxiously. He quickly distanced himself from Lumu. His face was even redder than before. Well, I didn't mean it, I did it to catch that kid, Jiraiya said, and suddenly felt something was wrong. Wasn't the woman in front of me transformed by that boy using the transformation technique? For a moment, Jiraiya thought of a bold idea. He controlled Lumu, and then used the transformation technique to stand in front of him every day. Not for anything else, just to please yourself. But when he saw Lumu's pitiful expression, all evil thoughts disappeared. Jiraiya even wanted to slap himself a few times. How could you have such evil thoughts in the face of such a lovely woman? Are you still a human being? Are you still a man? Lumu smiled proudly. I didn't expect this ninjutsu to be so successful. Seeing Jiraiya's cautious look, an evil thought suddenly appeared in his mind. Then Lumu was in front of Jiraiya. It showed a cunning old shoulder. When Jiraiya saw this scene, his nosebleed flowed involuntarily. But at this moment, Jiraiya quickly reached out and grabbed Lumu's hand. Boy, I know it's you, but please don't destroy the perfect image of the goddess in my mind, please. Lumu was dumbfounded. This can't be love anymore. Fall in love with the woman after your transformation. All of a sudden, goosebumps broke out all over Lumu's body. At this moment, countless pieces of paper were flying around. A figure kept flapping its wings in the air. Let me go. Hearing Conan's voice, Lumu had the urge to unlock the transformation technique immediately. After all, if someone you know sees you using the seduction technique, you will probably die in society, and you will live under the name of a pervert in the future. But Lumu turned around and looked. Conan was flying in the air, staring at himself blankly. Conan's eyes before were usually filled with admiration, as if he was looking at his most respected elder. But at this moment, there was a hint of admiration in Conan's eyes, as if he was seeing the person he had secretly loved for many years. Lumu was dumbfounded. I seem to have turned into a girl, so why is Conan also falling for the seduction spell? Could it be that Conan is a lily? Thinking of this, Lumu couldn't help but tremble. At this time Conan looked at Lumu stupidly. Although I admired Lumu before, I wanted to do something more than friendship. But that was all to make Lumu relax. There is no other friendship in my heart. But at this moment, Conan felt like there was a deer pounding in his heart. The temperature in his head gradually increased, and it was full of Lumu's appearance at this time. I want to forget about world peace and not wanting war, I just want to spend the rest of my life with the man in front of me. Then he swooped down and picked up Lumu directly. Lumu finally enjoyed the feeling after turning over. It was like two big mountains pressing in front of him, making Lumu breathless. But in Yamanaka, Lumu could clearly hear that someone seemed to be beating gongs and drums, and the sound was getting louder and the rhythm faster and faster. Conan, let me breathe. After hearing Lumu's cry, Conan finally realized his carelessness. He quickly changed Lumu into a princess hugging position. Sorry, it was my mistake. Lumu's mouth twitched. I can't explain it clearly now, I will definitely be killed instantly by pain. If pain sees this, it cannot be solved with one move or a bag of rice. No matter how many times he died, he would never be able to bear the cuckold on his head. But I have to say, the princess hug feels really good. You let me go. Jiraiya roared angrily, and a light blue ball appeared in his right hand, containing amazing chakra. It was the Rasengan that allowed Naruto Uzumaki to flourish. What if I say I won't let you go? Conan sneered and hugged him tighter. Countless pieces of paper gathered in front of him, exuding a faint murderous aura. Lumu was a little confused about the situation. It was normal for Jiraiya not to recognize Conan when he came. After all, when Jiraiya left, Conan was still very young and a girl had grown up, so it was normal not to recognize him. But there was no way Conan didn't know Jiraiya. That is the teacher who has been with him day and night for several years. When the two met, Jiraiya was already an adult and his appearance had stabilized. Even if it is many years later, at most there will be a little more vicissitudes of life on the face. Now we have to fight whenever we meet. Lumu couldn't accept this and decided to show off directly. Conan, please stop quickly, the person below is your master. I know, but even the master can't take you away from me. Now shut up, little cutie, my sister will deal with this pervert soon. Hearing the word Conan, Jiraiya was stunned for a moment, his face full of memories. But the ball in his hand was a bit bigger than before, and it looked more dangerous than before. It turns out to be my good disciple Conan. I only know how to teach you ninjutsu, but I don't teach you properly in this aspect. Lily is beautiful, but you can't control it. Come on, take action, let me see you how much has the strength improved. I think so too, Conan said, wrapping Lumu with pieces of paper and sending him to a safe location nearby. Then he flapped his wings a few times and rushed straight towards Jiraiya. Lumu's mouth twitched. For the first time, I felt the feeling of two people fighting for themselves. But something feels wrong. Lumu was very curious about what he looked like now, to be able to allow two people to do this. Then Lumu walked to the mirror. I wiped the fog off the mirror with my hands. Ding! Terrible is a thrilling feeling. The woman in the mirror is not particularly beautiful, but it gives people a very real feeling. And Lumu felt. The girl in the mirror seemed to have been bound to him for several lifetimes, and he wanted to protect her for the rest of his life as soon as he met her. It's like walking out of a dream. Lumu trembled all over and was so frightened that he broke into a cold sweat. I almost fell in love with myself. To be precise, I almost fell in love with myself after seduction. This is true for all practitioners, let alone others. Now Lumu can also know how Conan and Jiraiya feel. I also secretly felt horrified by this special effect. Special effects don't necessarily have to be bigger and more spectacular to be powerful. This time, the thing that people want most is summoned, which is much more powerful than the previous great fireball technique. It's also more terrifying. After all, what is controlled this time is the human heart. Boom! Jiraiya and Conan fought fiercely. The chakra of the two people has been stimulated to its peak at this time, and they feel that they will not give up until they defeat each other. If outsiders saw it, they would definitely think that the two were life and death enemies. Little did they know that the relationship between the two was master and apprentice, and they were only interested in a woman-man. Don't fight, Lumu shouted anxiously. But when the two of them heard Lumu's voice, it was as if they had been injected with chicken blood, and the chakra on their bodies surged again. Lumu was startled. I dare not say anything more. Suddenly I realized the root of the problem, which was seduction. Then Lumu quickly cancelled the seduction technique. Suddenly smoke filled the air, and Lumu's whole person was wrapped in smoke. Conan and Jiraiya immediately stopped attacking, their eyes nervously searching for the figure in the smoke. Finally the smoke cleared. Lumu was seen standing with a smile. Jiraiya felt that his heart was empty, as if something important was missing. Then he rushed over. He grabbed Lumu's shoulders with both hands and shook them. Give her back to me, quickly. Jiraiya shouted anxiously, tears falling down his cheeks. Not asking for anything else, just to take another look at her. Stop it, it was just ninjutsu. Lumu shouted anxiously. If Jiraiya didn't stop, he would definitely be shaken to pieces. So the only option is a showdown. I know that's ninjutsu, but please let me look at Yian again. I promise I won't bother you after I look at Yian again. See billions of eyes. You are an old fool. And I am a man. A man. Lumu looked at Conan for help. I saw Conan looking at him in surprise, his face turned red. The most deadly thing is nosebleeds. Lumu's heart skipped a beat. I was taking a bath just now, and now that the seduction spell has been lifted, I have returned to my original appearance, then. Thinking of this, Lumu's face turned red instantly. Pushing Jiraiya away, he quickly jumped into the hot spring. This is a men's bath, Conan. It's okay, I'm dressed. I mean, get out of here. It doesn't matter, there's no one else, we're all acquaintances. Lumu roared in his heart. Although the seduction spell was lifted, Conan and Jiraiya stopped taking action. But it seems that he is more in danger. Within Kamui space, Uchiha Obito hugged his knees with his hands, and his mask fell to the side, revealing the horrific wounds on his face. Now Uchiha Obito's heart is like a shocking wave. I just found Conan fighting with someone else, so I rushed over. It was discovered that the one fighting Conan was Jiraiya, one of the Sannin. He was preparing to watch the battle between his master and his uncle. Suddenly I saw a petite figure below. This figure is exactly the girl that I have longed for and kept appearing in my dreams. But the way she appears is different from others. Every time he appears, it's the scene where Hitaki Kakashi stabs his heart with Reikiri. But at this moment, that figure actually appeared in front of him. You can even see her rising and falling breathing, as well as her strong heartbeat. Uchiha Obito didn't dare stand in front of her. She was afraid that if she stood in front of her, another Hitaki Kakashi would appear and pierce her heart with one move. So I chose to escape and hid in Kamui space. After about a few minutes, Uchiha Obito calmed down. No matter what, I need to see her. No matter whether this is a dream or reality, he can't stop himself from seeing her. Uchiha Obito was about to open the Kamui space and smiled helplessly when he saw the mask on the ground. It's better to wear it. Don't scare Lin. I'll just protect her quietly behind the scenes. Uchiha Obito said, putting on the mask. I was secretly determined in my heart. This time, no matter who it was, no one could hurt Nohara Lin. Kamui space opens. Uchiha Obito walked out with excitement. The fighting between Conan and Jiraiya outside now stopped. But the scene got weird. Conan stood there stupidly, his nose bleeding without realizing it. His hands kept gesticulating with something huge, and there was a look of fear in his eyes. Uchiha Obito's mouth twitched. It is really not easy to condense so many emotions into one face. Jiraiya was much more normal. After all, he was notoriously lecherous. But the strange thing is that instead of harassing the young and beautiful Conan, he harassed Lumu, who was hiding under the hot spring. Uchiha Obito shook his head helplessly. As expected, none of Sanin's brains are normal. But none of this matters to Uchiha Obito. This time I went out just to see the goddess I've been dreaming about, Nohara Lin. Uchiha Obito looked around with anxiety and excitement. Once again, twice, 3 times. Where is my Lin? Where's my Lin? Where's my Lin? Uchiha Obito searched for it again and again. The familiar figure appeared and disappeared as if joking. Whether it's under the hot spring, in the toilet, or in every corner. Not even a hair was found, let alone a human figure. Uchiha Obito sat down in despair. Tears fell down drop by drop along the mask. The hatred towards Hatake Kakashi in my heart increased even more. The eyes of the other 3 people present were attracted. Conan had a surprised expression on his face. This powerful and calculating old coin actually has such an expression. Completely subverting the previous image in Conan's mind. Jiraiya walked up to Uchiha Obito with 2 glasses of wine and sat down directly. Let's have a drink first. Lumu naturally knew why Uchiha Obito was so sad. Nohara Lin. Uchiha Obito is a girl from a group. Uchiha Obito's always favorite, but it happened that Nohara Rin, who was so cute and kind, was killed in front of Uchiha Obito. And it's Hatake Kakashi, a teammate and friend. One move, Reikiri, pierces the heart directly. At this moment, it turned into Uchiha Obito's nightmare. Every time I fall asleep, I can see this scene happening. And Uchiha Obito can be so gaff-like. It was definitely because he saw his seduction technique just now and thought that he was Nohara Lin. The best way to appease him now is to use seduction. But thinking of Conan and Jiraiya's gaff just now, Lumu hesitated. What if after using the seduction technique, Uchiha Obito makes things difficult for her, her innocence will be compromised. Moreover, ninjutsu, the seduction technique, Lumu also decided to add it to the list of forbidden techniques. After all, I can't even avoid this ninjutsu. Although Jiraiya is called pervy sage, he is definitely a warm man in the ninja world. With just a few words, Uchiha Obito was almost comforted. At least the tears have stopped. Senior Lu, don't forget this mission. As for me, I can no longer accompany you. Uchiha Obito said, and the space around his body began to distort. Then the whole person was sucked in. Disappear in front of everyone. Although it is important to observe Lumu, Uchiha Obito is eager to return home now and must go back and take another look at Nohara Rin. As for the task of observing Lumu, leave it to Ju. Lumu and Conan left the hot spring. Lumu felt that Conan's whole person had changed. He kept holding his arms with both hands, looking like a couple in love. Even Lumu kept trying to get rid of him. In the eyes of others, it has become an ambiguous fight between young lovers. Behind the 2 of them, Jiraiya has been following secretly. It's like being a thief. But Jiraiya made a surprising discovery. Lumu, Conan, and the man wearing the mask before were all wearing red clouds and black coats. It definitely belongs to a force. And everyone has powerful abilities. Conan's elusive divine paper technique, the masked man's fantastic space ninjutsu, and most importantly, Luemu's magical transformation technique. Orochimaru might actually be in their power. If you follow Lumu, you might actually meet Orochimaru. At least, I can still see the girl in my dreams. Pervy sage, can you please stop following us? Lumu said dissatisfied. Although Jiraiya left Konoha village, he still belonged to Konoha ninja in his heart. And he is also one of the rumored Sannin. If you continue to let him follow you, it will definitely cause a lot of inconvenience. Jiraiya was discovered. He stopped sneaking around and walked up to him shamelessly. The road is built right here, why don't you let me go? Lumu was furious. If he couldn't beat Jiraiya, he would definitely let him have a taste of the power of fists. We are going to deal with that immortal evil god, are you sure you want to come with us? Lumu said angrily. Jiraiya was stunned for a moment. I have also heard of the legend of the immortal evil god, and I had thought about solving it before. But I couldn't find anyone, and I was eager to get materials. So the idea was shelved. Unexpectedly, Lumu and others also wanted to deal with this murderer, and they instantly felt good about the forces behind Lumu. But Jiraiya also felt a little worried. That immortal evil god has very strange methods. Apart from the transformation technique, Lumu's only strength is Chunin's chakra. Facing the immortal evil god is very dangerous. If something goes wrong with Lumu, the girl in his dream may never be seen again for the rest of his life. So Jiraiya firmed up his thoughts. What a coincidence, I want to find that guy too. Chapter 51. The three of them walked on the path cautiously. According to rumors, the immortal evil god often intercepts passers-by on this path. The first time I opened my mouth was to ask people if they wanted to join the evil god cult. If you don't want to join, just do it directly. Several people have already encountered mishaps. However, Lumu and others had been walking back and forth for an hour, and not even a single figure was seen, let alone Hidan. Did the immortal evil god move to another destination? Conan said speechlessly. Impossible, this is a rare small road in the kingdom of Sichuan. Except for this road, it is difficult to ambush on other roads. Jiraiya analyzed seriously. Lumu glanced at Jiraiya impatiently. With you, one of these Sannins, it is almost impossible for ordinary people to come out and ambush you. Lumu complained in his heart, but did not dare to say it out loud. After all, Lumu didn't want to know the taste of the meatballs. Just as the three of them were walking boredly, a figure suddenly walked out slowly. The other person looks very young. The clothes on his body have a hip-hop style, and he is holding a huge sickle in his hand. Hello, you are not interested in joining the evil god cult. Who else could it be if he wasn't Hidan? For a moment, the hearts of the three of them were raised. Lumu's heart was beating loudly. After all, Hidan was different from other ninjas. No matter how much other ninjas say they are not afraid of death, they will still be afraid when they encounter that infinite fireball. This is where the special effects are most powerful. But Hidan was different. Hidan will never die, so he doesn't know what fear is. Totally a reckless man, and all he had to do was shed a drop of blood, and Hidan would use secret techniques to directly deprive him of his life. Seeing that the three of them were silent, Hidan became unhappy. Hey, I'm asking you, do you want to join the evil god cult? Lumu hesitated, then he was ready to move forward. After all, Conan is a woman, and as a man, it is impossible to hide behind a woman. It would be even more impossible to let Conan come on. But just as Lumu took half a step, Jiraiya stretched out his hand to block Lumu's way. What are you causing trouble? I'll take care of this kid. Just use that technique again then. Jiraiya said seriously. If you deal with him, Master will definitely use that technique, and not just once. Conan replied on Lumu's behalf, with seriousness written all over his face. Lumu rolled his eyes. The good feeling that just arose suddenly disappeared. After all, I am still greedy for my own body. And Conan, you want to see it yourself too. But Jiraiya taking action was definitely the best choice. After all, with Sannin's strength, as long as he is careful, there will be no problem in dealing with Hidan. Jiraiya took a few steps towards Hidan, with an uninhibited smile on his face. I'm not interested in your evil cult, but I don't know if you are interested in my autographed book. Book? What's the use of that thing? Since you are unwilling to join the evil god's cult, then I will send you pagans to meet the evil god. After Hidan finished speaking, he laughed maniacally. Both hands kept waving the sickles in their hands, and the wind blew down all the surrounding leaves. That's such a pity. Books signed by me are very precious. After Jiraiya finished speaking, he became serious. For a moment, Jiraiya's entire demeanor changed. Before, there was the pervy sage who talked nonsense and was full of false ideas. At this moment, he became Jiraiya, one of the Sannin who could fight Sancho Hanzo. Seeing Jiraiya's change, Hidan was also stunned for a moment. But he recovered quickly. After all, Hidan believed in the evil god and had immortality. So what if the opponent is more powerful? It's not like he's going to die anyway. For a while, the two sides fought. Jiraiya is far superior to Hidan in both speed, power and chakra. Hidan was beaten so hard that it was difficult to even fight back. But Hidan's face showed no fear at all, instead he became more and more excited. Jiraiya noticed something strange. However, Jiraiya was not prepared to take it step by step, but chose to defeat Hidan directly in one go. Suddenly, a light blue ball made of chakra appeared on Jiraiya's right hand. Although the ball is not big, it has amazing chakra. Then Jiraiya held up the Rasengan and rushed straight towards Hidan. Hidan also discovered the threat Rasengan posed to him. Although he won't die, he will probably hurt for a long time if he is hit by that. Then he waved the sickle in his hand desperately, trying to stop Jiraiya's attack. But Jiraiya was like a nimble rabbit. The intensive scythe attacks made Jiraiya feel like he was in no one's land. In just 2 breaths, he arrived in front of Hidan. Rasengan. The Rasengan accurately hit Hidan in the stomach, and Hidan was knocked away like a baseball. Jiraiya turned around proudly and gestured to Lumu. I have solved this guy, can you use that technique? As Jiraiya said, he noticed that Lumu's pupils shrank sharply, as if he had seen something frightening. Why, if you don't want to use that technique, you don't have to make this expression, right? Is your face hurt? Jiraiya touched the wound on his face disapprovingly. It's just a small injury. Jiraiya was a little confused. There was just a small cut on his face. I don't know why Lumu was so nervous. You know, ninjas are scratched countless times by their own ninja tools every day. You don't need to worry about the small wounds on his face at all, they will heal on their own after a while. Don't change the topic, come with me to the side to perform that technique. Hey, why do you have to perform it on the edge? Can't you do it here? Conan said unconvinced. Lumu smiled bitterly. How long has it been since this happened? Jiraiya still wants to use color seduction. You know, Hidan only needs 1 drop of blood. You can start the ritual, use blood as the medium, and take people's lives thousands of miles away. Now Jiraiya was injured. Then Hidan could kill Jiraiya at any time. At this moment, a burst of bad laughter came from not far away. The 3 of them all looked away. Hidan slowly stood up and then drew a circle on the ground with his feet. Then Hidan's whole body turned black. It gives people a very weird feeling. You are very strong, but you are no match for me. Jiraiya looked at Hidan in confusion. Everyone was beaten away, but he still had the nerve to say he was no match for him. Isn't this just a tough talk? But to Jiraiya, it didn't matter. Defeating Hidan was a piece of cake. But Hidan's operation in the next scene left Jiraiya confused. Hidan was seen licking the blood on the side. Then he threw away the sickle and took out a slender sword. The tip of the sword was pointed directly at his heart. Then he started laughing crazily. I'll send you to see the evil god now. For a moment, Jiraiya felt creepy. He seemed to be connected to Hidan. A hint of danger arose in his heart. Conan, stop him quickly, Lumu shouted anxiously. Although Conan didn't know why Lumu was so anxious, he just did it anyway. That's too late. The piece of paper hit Hidan's hand, causing Hidan's stabbing direction to deviate slightly. But it still didn't stop Hidan's attack. The moment the long sword pierced the heart, Jiraiya shuddered and his pupils narrowed sharply. He touched his heart with one hand and found that it was all filled with hot blood. Jiraiya was confused. He was not hurt at all, so why was he stabbed through the heart all of a sudden? Finally, Jiraiya understood why Lumu was so nervous. It turns out that Hidan can use special techniques to transfer his own damage to others. Although Jiraiya understood, but it's too late. Because his heart had been punctured, blood could not stop flowing out. For a moment, Jiraiya felt dizzy. My limbs gradually became weak. My life is like a fleeting tour, constantly appearing in front of my eyes. There are thousands of nostalgia in my heart. Jiraiya hasn't returned to Konoha yet, hasn't confessed to Tsunade yet, hasn't looked at that girl for the last time. But it was too late. System, whether you are sleeping or not, tell me whether Jiraiya is saved. Lumu shouted angrily in his heart. Although Jiraiya is greedy for himself, he has to say that Jiraiya is a good man. When he first watched the anime and saw Jiraiya's death, Lumu was even sadder for a long time. Now Jiraiya fell in front of him. Lumu's anger soared to the highest level. Ding dong. It has been detected that Jiraiya is in a state of suspended animation. His life will not be in danger in a short period of time, but if the bleeding cannot be stopped in time, there is still a chance of dying in battle. Lumu was stunned for a moment. Unexpectedly, after being pierced through the heart, he just entered a state of suspended animation. Suddenly Lumu remembered a book he had read before. The human heart is composed of 4 chambers. There is an area in the 4 rooms where life will not be in danger even if it is punctured. But the angle of penetration is very tricky. Unexpectedly, due to the interference of Conan's piece of paper, Hidan's sword was accidentally pierced into that area. This allowed Jiraiya to save his life. Lumu breathed a sigh of relief. All in all, Jiraiya will be fine. Conan, help pervy sage stop the bleeding. Conan nodded slightly. Although the two were fighting just now, Jiraiya was Conan's master after all. Seeing Jiraiya's current state, how could he not be worried? Lumu, on the other hand, walked towards Hidan. Then I killed the old man, do you want to try it too? Hidan smiled arrogantly, with pride written all over his face. I heard that you believe in the evil god cult. Lumu said calmly. Why are you interested in joining? No, I just want to show you which one is more powerful, my true form and the evil god you believe in. Hidan frowned. A trace of murderous intent arose in his heart. Lumu is challenging his own bottom line and slandering his beliefs. You succeeded in irritating me. I want to see how you fight against the evil god in your true form. Lumu smiled disapprovingly. His hands quickly formed seals. Suddenly the entire sky darkened, leaving only a beam of light. And at the end of the beam, it is a sacred and holy door. Hidan looked at the gate in the sky in disbelief. I don't know why, as a believer of the evil god, I feel suppressed. Suddenly Hidan shuddered. Only gods that are more advanced than the evil god can suppress the followers of the evil god. In other words, behind that door, there is a being who can make the evil god surrender. At this moment, the door slowly opened. The light from inside the gate shone directly, lighting up the sky that had turned into darkness once again. And behind that divine light, a figure gradually walked out. Step, 2 steps, 3 steps, the figure slowly walked down the stairs. Hidan felt like his body was out of control. I want to kneel down directly and surrender to that figure. But as the most loyal believer of the evil god, how can he kneel down to others? So what if the other party is a god? At this time, the figure stepped out of the bright light. His facial features became clearer. But when he saw the figure's face clearly, Hidan became even more surprised. Isn't this Lumu? Suddenly Hidan felt as if he had been struck by a bolt from the blue. Is Lumu a god? He actually waved his sickle at the gods. And he is also a higher level god than the evil god. Having an immortal body and never knowing fear, Hidan was frightened at this moment. Because offending the god in front of you will bring endless trouble to the evil god you believe in. The evil god will also be implicated in this. But Hidan wasn't ashamed of his fear. Because he is facing a god. It is normal for a mortal to be in awe of the gods, it is truly abnormal to not be afraid. Lumu walked lower and lower in the air. With every step he took, Hidan felt the pressure on his body increase. After walking for several steps, Hidan felt like a hill was being pressed against him. It was so stressful that I couldn't even breathe. What made Hidan feel most desperate was that he could no longer feel the presence of the evil god. You must know that evil spirits belong to gods. As the most loyal believer, I can feel the presence of the evil god wherever I go. But at this moment Hidan couldn't feel it anymore. This shows that the evil god he believes in is also afraid of the man in front of him and is also afraid of the man in front of him. That's why he chose to abandon his most loyal believer. You know, Hidan's immortality is a test of the power of the evil god. But now the evil god has abandoned him. Then the immortal body given also disappeared. At this moment Hidan was scared from the bottom of his heart. I felt extremely regretful. Why should I provoke the man in front of me? Why provoke such a powerful god to the evil god? Finally Lumu walked down the steps completely. At this time, Hidan was crushed, and he was lying on the ground, unable to move his limbs at all. And the divine light on Luemu's body. It was like tiny steel needles, constantly stimulating his body. It feels like even if the other party does nothing, he will be crushed to death by this amazing pressure. Wait a minute, I'm willing to surrender. Hidan surrendered. Surrender to another god. For the most loyal believer of the evil god, this is undoubtedly more uncomfortable than killing him. But Hidan knew that he had to do this. When Hidan said the word surrender, he suddenly felt light all over. Even the evil god who disappeared before was sensed again. The immortal power in his body was also restored. Hidan was ecstatic. Although it was frustrating to give in this time, it was undoubtedly the most correct choice. Not only did he save himself, he also saved the evil god he believed in. Ding dong. Successfully completed the mission. Obtained rewards and some of the special effects materialized. Materialized damage will not exceed the original ninjutsu. Lumu was ecstatic. Although the special effects look great, in the end they are just illusions. The damage of special effects can now be materialized. Although it won't exceed ninjutsu's damage limit, it will definitely make it easier to fool people in the future. Very good. From now on, you are a member of the Akatsuki organization. Lumu said and waved with one hand. Lumu, who had just walked down the stairs, walked up the stairs step by step. Finally, with the huge door, it completely disappeared into the air. After doing all this, Lumu walked towards Jiraiya. Although there was no expression on Conan's face at this time, the two traces of tears completely betrayed her. Now seeing Lumu coming, a glimmer of hope appeared on his face. Master, as a god, you must have a way to save him, right? Treatment is my weakness. As soon as Luemu's words came out, a look of despair appeared on Conan's face. But it's understandable. Neither god nor man is perfect. Luemu's aggressive ninjutsu is so powerful, it is normal for him to be unable to treat ninjutsu. On the contrary, this is more real. But I can give it a try. Conan looked at Lumu in surprise. The already despairing heart burned again. In fact, in the intermediate ninjutsu gift pack, there is the healing ninjutsu Palm Sage Jutsu. But Lumu has always been very afraid of using it. Because you can find excuses to take back other ninjutsu, but not healing ninjutsu. If it cannot be cured, it cannot be cured. No matter how powerful your special effects are, if you can't heal the injury, it will be exposed all of a sudden. So even if you are injured, Lumu will definitely not be able to use healing ninjutsu. But this time it's different. Although Jiraiya avoided fatal injuries, but the blood still kept flowing out. If it cannot be treated in time, Jiraiya's body will still be unable to bear it, and he will end up here drinking in hatred. So Lumu had to go. Lumu walked to Jiraiya and placed his hands directly on his heart. Not long after, Luemu's hands were stained red with blood. Lumu took a deep breath to calm down. Then the chakra in the body begins to be mobilized. For a moment, Luemu's hands lit up with green light, and a warm chakra kept flowing into Jiraiya's body, constantly repairing Jiraiya's wounds. And just then, the whole tree Junrinin fell silent. The chirping birds also stopped, as if the whole world had clicked the mute button. The next second a breeze came. Along with the breeze there was a hint of drizzle. Wherever the drizzle falls, it seems to be filled with life again. Grasses kept crawling out of the soil one by one. Each bud blooms at this moment. Miracle, Hidan exclaimed. Controlling the drizzle to revive all things, what is this if not a miracle? And Hidan feels. The wound he had just suffered was also recovering quickly at this time. Suddenly, Hidan secretly made up his mind to believe in not only the evil god from now on, but also the god in front of him. Conan had a complaining look on his face. You also said that you don't know the healing type ninjutsu. Your ninjutsu will be overshadowed by Tsunade, one of the Sannin. But Conan is used to it. Luemu's so-called not grandmaster is probably a state that ordinary people will find difficult to reach in their lifetime. But the stone in Conan's heart has not yet fallen. After all, what Jiraiya was punctured was not other parts, but the heart, the most important organ of mankind. Even if it is a god, I am afraid it will be difficult to cure. At this moment, the rain became heavier and heavier. All the clothes of several people were soaked, and the area covered by the rain gradually became smaller. At this time, Jiraiya's whole body floated. It was like a hand was holding it up. And Jiraiya's body also lit up with a faint blue light. The light is like breathing, greedily sucking in the chakra around it. At this moment, Jiraiya slowly looked around with confused eyes. Conan exclaimed, "He's awake." It was unimaginable to Conan that he could be saved from a punctured heart. This kind of method is definitely a miracle among miracles. But then a sad expression appeared on Conan's face. If Lumu had been there at that time, Yahiko wouldn't have had to die. Thinking of this, a tear slipped down his cheek. Hidan also looked at the scene in front of him in surprise. He had indeed punctured his heart at that time. Once the heart is punctured, even if the gods come to this world, it will be difficult to cure it. But the man in front of me did it. For a moment, Hidan felt secretly happy. Surrendering to such a powerful god is definitely not a shameful thing, but a supreme honor. Even if the evil god knew about it, he would definitely praise his wit. The chakra retreated and Jiraiya slowly fell to the ground. His face was full of confusion and confusion. Am I not dead? Is this heaven? Jiraiya thought about seeing the figures of Conan and Lumu, then stood up and kept touching the position of his heart. Am I okay? Or were you all killed by that guy? What do you mean by that guy? I have a name called Hidan. Hidan said unhappily. Jiraiya's pupils suddenly shrank. Then he quickly pulled Lumu and Conan behind him and protected them in front with his body. But due to excessive blood loss, he fell down as soon as he stood up. Get away from this guy quickly, he is very dangerous. Jiraiya reminded anxiously. He was afraid that Lumu and Conan would also be plotted by Hidan. Don't worry, Hidan has been defeated by his master and officially joined the Akatsuki organization. Conan explained patiently. Jiraiya looked at Lumu in disbelief. No matter what methods Hidan used, in short, he was defeated at his hands. An enemy that even he himself can't defeat. He was actually defeated by Lumu. And looking at Hidan's look, there was fear in his eyes, but also a hint of piety. This completely defeated the opponent. Jiraiya couldn't help but frown. What happened during the time when I was asleep? Who pulled me back from the gate of hell with my heart pierced? Could it really be this kid in front of me? Jiraiya looked at Lumu again. Having Chunin's strength at the age of 12 or 13 is already pretty good, and he will definitely become a well-known ninja in time. But what Jiraiya never expected was, the enemy that he couldn't defeat was easily defeated by Lumu. And he also saved himself from having his heart punctured. If he is given enough time to grow, he might reach the realm of the ninja god Senju Hashirama. In other words, Lumu himself is the reincarnation of a strong man. For example, Sage of Six Paths. Jiraiya didn't dare to think any more. No matter what, Lumu's strength is extraordinary and his potential is unprecedented. Such a talent would be a waste if not properly taught. Just lift the chakra up. Then Lumu can instantly reach the shadow level, or even exceed the shadow level. Boy, I want to take you to a place. You can choose to go or not. Jiraiya looked at Lumu seriously. In any case, the path of a ninja depends entirely on Lumu's own choice. So I posed the question directly to Lumu. Lumu was stunned for a moment. I didn't expect Jiraiya to have such a serious side. But to be honest, Lumu didn't want to follow Jiraiya. After all, Jiraiya has always been lusting after his own body. If you arrive at a place with no one around, it will be too late to regret it. I am still. Ding dong. Trigger the wake-up task. Agree to Jiraiya's request, and the arousal level will directly reach 60%. If you reject Jiraiya's request, the arousal level will be recalculated. Lumu couldn't help but cursed in his heart. Is there anything so deceptive? If the arousal level is recalculated, wouldn't all the previous efforts be in vain? And after tasting the sweetness of the system, I became even more eager to completely wake up the system. But at this time, such a task came. Lumu finally understood. The system is that the more you don't want to do something, the more it will let you do it. The more dangerous things are, the more they want to tempt you. But the relative returns are also very impressive. Okay, but I have a condition, that is, I will never use that ninjutsu again. Jiraiya was stunned for a moment, with a disappointed expression on his face. But he recovered immediately. Well, I'm definitely not going to force you to perform that ninjutsu. Okay, I'll go with you. Lumu nodded with satisfaction. Master, I will go with you too, Conan said immediately. No, you need to take Hidan back to the land of rain. Now is the time for Akatsuki organization to hire people. If Conan follows him, the development trend of Akatsuki organization will slow down. And Lumu was afraid that Pain would misunderstand him. If Pain misunderstood that he had eloped with Conan and brought the planetary devastation, he would not have enough lives. But you are my master, and I must take good care of you. Then this is the master's order. You stay in the Akatsuki organization. I will come back sooner or later. All right, seeing Conan agreed, Lumu finally breathed a sigh of relief. Lumu followed Jiraiya. I have always had Conan with me when traveling before, so I can reach it quickly no matter how far the road is. Now I walk entirely on my legs, which is a bit unaccustomed to me. But fortunately, Jiraiya was not in a hurry. Walking and playing at the same time seems very comfortable. Taking this opportunity, Lumu truly appreciated the world. But Jiraiya is too ink-stained. Every time I arrived at a village, I would stop for a while and then go out to collect materials with my binoculars. But Lumu could only wait alone in the hotel. After walking for half a month, Jiraiya didn't even say where he was going. Finally Lumu couldn't bear it anymore. Pervy sage, where are we going this time? I don't know. Jiraiya Kaido. Lumu's mouth twitched. If he hadn't been unable to defeat Jiraiya, he would have wanted to slap him right now. Emotions are just wandering aimlessly. In other words, just accompanying Jiraiya everywhere to collect materials. Then why did you bring me out? To play with you, Lumu said a little angrily. Jiraiya saw that Lumu was a little angry. He quickly comforted him embarrassedly. The technique you used before can make people see the person they want to see the most, so I hope you can use that ninjutsu on a person to cheer her up again. Jiraiya said sincerely. There was even a hint of begging in his tone. Tsunade. So you know her? Yes, I just want you to cheer her up again. After that, I will take you to a place to practice and see a real immortal. Lumu originally wanted to refuse. After all, it is too dangerous to use the seduction technique in front of Tsunade. As long as she goes berserk, she will never have any chance to resist. But when I heard the word, immortal, I instantly became energetic. That's Sage Mode. After possessing Sage Mode, you can perform Sage Jutsu, and you may even reach Cage level strength instantly. Lumu was still willing to take such a small risk and practice Sage Mode. Okay, I promise you, but just this once. Press me, press them all. A beautiful woman smashed the table angrily, and a large piece of the tabletop made of slate broke into pieces in an instant. But no one at the table was angry. Instead, they looked at the women with evil smiles. Because women are the legendary fat sheep, no matter what you bet on, just follow her and do it. As long as she is present, she can win money. As long as you can win money, it doesn't matter if you tear down the house and everyone. Tsunade-sama, I really can't suppress you any longer. Shizune held a little pig with one hand and put the money box behind her with the other hand. There was even a cry on his face. Because this is the last box of money. If I lose again, I'm afraid I won't even be able to afford food. Shizune, think about it. I have lost 37 times in a row. The probability of betting big or small is 50%. There is no reason why I keep losing. Tsunade explained gently. Then, when Shizune wasn't paying attention, she grabbed the box directly, with a crazy expression on her face. Shizune was about to cry. The chance of this pressure is indeed 50%, but if Tsunade is added, the chance of losing is 99.99%. It's a pity that all the money has been spent now. There is no possibility of taking it away anymore. I can only hope that Tsunade can make an exception and win once. Buy it and leave it. Open it for me. The lid was slowly opened, revealing 3 dice underneath. 1, 3, 3, small. The whole hall cheered for a while. Sure enough, as long as you buy against the legendary fat sheep, you can definitely make a lot of money. All the money was lost. Tsunade's anger rose instantly, but when she saw tears welling up in Shizune's eyes, an embarrassed smile immediately appeared on his face. Oh Shizune, I'm sorry, I lost all my money. Tsunade's words dispersed the last bit of Shizune's stubbornness. Suddenly I burst into tears. Tsunade suddenly became at a loss, and her face was filled with anxiety. Stop crying, Shizune. Money is something external to the body. If you lose, you lose. But where will we stay today and what will we eat? Shizune and we are ninjas. We can't rest anywhere. As for food, Tsunade said as she moved her gaze directly to the piglet on Shizune's chest. Xiaoju felt Tsunade's malicious gaze, and immediately trembled, and hurriedly burrowed into Shizune's arms. Seeing this, Shizune quickly took a few steps back, keeping her distance from Tsunade. Tsunade-sama, you idiot. After Shizune said that, she ran out crying. Thinking about not being able to sleep on a soft bed tonight, not being able to take a hot bath, and having nothing to eat, Shizune started crying even harder. Tsunade had a guilty expression on her face and hurriedly chased after him. As soon as he walked out of the door, he saw Shizune standing not far away. In front of Shizune stood two people, an old man and a young man. Shizune, why are you crying like this? Jiraiya-sama, Tsunade-sama has lost all her money, and we have nowhere to go. Shizune cried even harder as she spoke. His face was full of grievances. Even the little pig in his arms showed a hint of sadness. Jiraiya turned to look at Tsunade. Tsunade immediately turned her head to look at the sky, pretending to be innocent. Why are you here, Jiraiya? We happened to be talking while we were eating. Hearing the word eat, Shizune's eyes suddenly lit up and she looked at Jiraiya expectantly. The spare ration piglet let out a sigh of relief. At this time, Jiraiya turned into a huge wallet in the eyes of the two women and the pig. Lumu looked at Tsunade helplessly. As expected, every Sannin in Konoha village is top-notch. No wonder Uzumaki Naruto thinks that Tsunade will defeat the Leaf Village. Looking at the current situation, let alone the Leaf Village, the 5 major countries will be defeated by her. It's simply several times worse than in the anime. Just 2 refugees, 4 people and 1 pig found a restaurant at random. In Luemu's memory, girls always chewed their meals slowly and were full after just 2 bites. But the Tsunade and Shizune in front of him completely overturned Luemu's impression. The food had just been served, and Lumu hadn't seen what it was yet. It instantly flew into their mouths. Lumu didn't take even 2 bites of the food on the table. Most of it went into the mouths of 2 women and a pig. But what surprised Lumu was Jiraiya, who was usually picky and fussy, was particularly generous this time. The total amount of 1 meal is comparable to what it was a week ago. Finally had enough food and wine. Only a messy battlefield was left. Tsunade drank a small drink contentedly. Jiraiya, you are so polite. You treated me to a big meal as soon as I came here. So back to the topic, what do you want me to do for you? Tsunade said as she drank another glass of wine and her face turned red again. I'll give you someone to meet. Tsunade turned to look at Lumu, with a puzzled expression on her face. This boy. Tsunade squinted her eyes and kept looking at Lumu. Although the door of his heart has been closed and it is impossible to accept anyone, for the sake of this meal, he has to give Jiraiya some face. Yes, the chakra content at this age is at the level of Chunin. There is no limit to the development in the future. Tsunade replied perfunctorily. Then he filled it up again and swallowed it in 1 gulp. He looks like a middle-aged alcoholic uncle. Jiraiya shook his head helplessly. Ever since Tsunade's lover died in front of her, everyone she saw had this expression. It's a way of protecting yourself. But bringing Lumu here this time was to prepare Tsunade to open up her heart again and stop suppressing herself. Do you know why I brought Lumu here? You're here to fall in love with me, right? Tsunade joked, and even gave Lumu a wink. What a pity, I'm not interested in younger men. Really? Jiraiya smirked, then turned to Lumu and nodded. I hope you won't lose your composure in a moment. Tsunade was stunned for a moment. Seeing Jiraiya's expression, he felt inexplicably unhappy. If it weren't for the fact that Jiraiya had to pay. Now just punch him. Boy, cast that jutsu on Tsunade. Tsunade immediately perked up. Although I don't know what that technique is, I always feel that something bad is going to happen. No, there are too many people here. Others will definitely be affected by my technique, so they must go to the room. Lumu replied seriously. After all, most of the people drinking in izakayas now are greasy middle-aged uncles, and they all drink a lot. In case the seduction technique is used, a group of uncles were running towards him, fearing that they might kill someone. Be alone with me. Boy, are you brave. Tsunade hooked Luemu's neck and laughed evilly. But he was angry in his heart. If your magic is lifted, you can become Grandma Lumu. How dare you be alone with yourself? And I can no longer tolerate other people in my heart. Why don't you want to? If you don't want to, I'll leave. It's best for Lumu that Tsunade doesn't want to. As soon as I came over, my whole body was filled with the smell of alcohol. Moreover, the mind is obviously anesthetized by alcohol, and it is indeed a bit dangerous to be alone. It would be better to wait until Tsunade wakes up before continuing. You said I don't dare. I want to see what you want to do today. Tsunade said, directly picking up Lumu with one hand. Walk directly towards the hotel. But because he drank too much, he was staggering when he walked, his face was red, and the smell of alcohol kept coming out of his mouth. Seeing this, passers-by moved out of the way. Jiraiya's face lit up with joy and he quickly chased after him. After all, Lumu only promised this once. If he missed it, it would be difficult to do it again. Finally, Tsunade carried Lumu to the room. Then he threw Lumu directly on the tatami. With the sound of the door closing, Jiraiya said excitedly, "Boy, you can start." For a moment, Tsunade's head turned slowly like a machine. His eyes were like a demon crawling out of the abyss, staring at Jiraiya. Get out of here. Jiraiya's heart suddenly skipped a beat. Goosebumps all over my body stood up. A sense of crisis swept through his body. Jiraiya had felt this feeling before. That was the last time I peeked at Tsunade taking a shower. After that, he was beaten up by Tsunade and lay in the hospital for several months before recovering. Now the feeling came over me again. If I continue, I'm afraid I'll lose half my life. Okay, I'm leaving now. He walked out of the door reluctantly, his eyes still looking at Lumu from time to time. Shizune, watch over me and never let this guy peek. Okay Tsunade-sama, Jiraiya cried. The last bit of hope was wiped out. The door closed again. The room suddenly became quiet, except for Tsunade who kept belching wine. Boy, aren't you going to show me some ninjutsu? There's no one around now, so hurry up. Tsunade urged, but he didn't take Lumu seriously at all. After all, I am one of the Sannin. Is it possible that I am still afraid of a Chunin? If Lumu is really ignorant and wants to take advantage of himself, it will definitely make him regret it for the rest of his life. This is my forbidden technique. Pervy Sage begged me for a long time before I agreed to use it on you once. You must control yourself. After hearing Luemu's words, Tsunade suddenly laughed sarcastically. Yixi Chunin told herself to be careful, this was definitely a big joke. The anger in my heart increased again. Don't worry, I am one of the Sannin. What kind of ninjutsu have you not seen? Don't worry and come towards me. Well, try my seduction skills. Bang! A puff of smoke filled the room, covering Tsunade's eyes. Tsunade frowned and lifted up the sleeves of her clothes. If Lumu dares to sneak attack, then I will definitely give him an iron fist in return. How long did Jiraiya lie down in the first place, then how long Lumu had to lie down too? But the expected sneak attack did not happen. And as the smoke gradually receded, a figure stood in front of Lumu. But this figure was much taller than Lumu. Transformation technique. Apart from the bigger smoke, is there anything special about it? Tsunade sneered, disappointment written all over her face. But when the smoke completely disappeared, Tsunade suddenly trembled. That aqua hair, familiar face. Isn't it his lover, Dan Kato, who was killed in World War II? But Tsunade didn't feel excited, but the whole person became angry. The dead are the greatest. Although Tsunade has been thinking about Kato-dan, if other ninjas use the transformation technique, they will become Kato-dan and approach her. That was definitely the biggest offense to Kato-dan. It was also an insult to Tsunade. Boy, I admit that you succeeded in irritating me. I was planning to keep you in the hospital for a few months, but now I have changed my mind. I'll just send you to heaven. Tsunade said as chakra kept gathering on her right hand. Then he punched the opponent in the face with all his strength. Tsunade was very confident. If this punch hits, the head will explode like a watermelon. Lumu will definitely die to death. This is the consequence of insulting Kato Dan. But at this moment, Tsunade felt a familiar aura coming over her. Both the smell and the chakra on his body are exactly the same as those of Kato Dan at that time. All of a sudden, countless beautiful moments jumped out of my mind. Tsunade's injured heart was cut into pieces again. Boom! A huge hole was punched in the wall. And Tsunade's fist passed by Luemu's face. Because faced with the familiar feeling in front of her, Tsunade really couldn't make a move. Even if he knew it was Lumu who changed him, Tsunade couldn't do anything either. On the contrary, the heart that had been covered with dust at the beginning jumped again. Tick-tock. Tears fell to the ground drop by drop. Although Tsunade's face was expressionless at this time, her tears couldn't stop falling. Tsunade was violent and arrogant no matter what in front of outsiders. But in front of Kato Dan, she was always a gentle and lovely girl. And since Kato Dan died, that gentle and pleasant Tsunade never appeared again. Why do you want to be like him? Tsunade burst into tears. Lumu looked at Tsunade who was crying and had no idea that things would develop to this point. A trace of intolerance suddenly rose in my heart. Then he used his hands to gently help Tsunade wipe away her tears. Tsunade wanted to refuse at first. But when Luemu's fingers touched his face, his whole body felt like an electric shock. That feeling that was so familiar to my bones kept stimulating me. The transformation technique can imitate a person's height and facial features. With the naked eye, it is absolutely the same as the real one. But the transformation technique cannot imitate some details. If you use the transformation technique to deal with that familiar person, you will definitely be seen through by the other party at a glance. Because there are some characteristics that the transformation technique can never imitate. But the Kato Dan in front of him. Although Tsunade knew that it was Lumu who had changed, the familiar feeling made Tsunade completely unable to extricate herself. My mind said over and over again, this is the real Kato Dan. Finally, Tsunade couldn't bear the anticipation any longer. He stretched out his arms and hugged Lumu firmly. Just to feel that familiar taste again. Shizune waited anxiously outside. Tsunade had given a death order, and Jiraiya was absolutely not allowed to peek. But with just a punch from Tsunade, a huge hole appeared in the wall. Then came the sound of Tsunade crying, and after a brief silence, the sound of sucking jelly came from inside. Suddenly, Shizune's curiosity was infinitely amplified. I couldn't help but want to poke my head in and take a look. One look. I'll just take a look. In the end, curiosity finally defeated reason, and Shizune secretly turned her head and glanced into the room. But when she saw the man in the room, Shizune could no longer move her eyes. The heart is like a gong and a drum, beating continuously. That figure seemed to have walked out of a dream. Shizune couldn't bear to blink. And when he saw Tsunade hugging Lumu tightly, Shizune felt jealous. Why is it that Tsunade is not the one inside? Without Shizune's surveillance, Jiraiya couldn't help but take a look inside. When seeing the scene in the room, Jiraiya couldn't help but give a thumbs up. Lily is infinitely better. Lumu got up with difficulty in the early morning. I feel like my skeleton is about to fall apart. I have to say that Tsunade's title of violent woman is not fake. And there was a stench of wine in his mouth. Lumu smelled it and almost spit it out. Fortunately, Tsunade didn't do anything more extreme last night. Lumu looked around. Tsunade was not found, and she breathed a sigh of relief. This Jiraiya definitely wanted to kill himself by letting him do it. Fortunately, the task was completed, and the arousal level reached 60 points. Lumu was about to get up when he suddenly found a necklace hanging around his neck. Suddenly Luemu's heart trembled. There was a look of fear on his face. Ding dong. Found the cursed necklace. Curse necklace. Wearing this necklace will increase the chance of death by 10% during battle. Luemu's mouth twitched. If you wear this necklace and take off the Akatsuki organization's black coat, wouldn't the chance of dying in battle reach 100%? And Lumu doesn't know what the system's definition of combat is. Lumu was about to take off the necklace. The door was suddenly opened. I saw Tsunade walking in cautiously, carrying breakfast. Wake up, this is the breakfast I prepared for you. Lumu was startled and quickly distanced himself from Tsunade. He had obviously unlocked the seduction technique last night, so why was Tsunade still so attentive? Seeing Lumu's reaction, Tsunade showed a disappointed expression on her face. I'm sorry, last night, I didn't control myself well. Lumu rolled his eyes. Not only did he fail to control himself, but he went completely berserk. My mouth is still swollen to this day. At this moment, the door was opened again, and Shizune walked in slowly, also carrying the cooked porridge. Tsunade-sama, you are here too. Shizune was shocked. She didn't expect Tsunade, who was usually carefree, to prepare breakfast. No wonder I woke up early in the morning and was doing something mysterious. But Shizune had no intention of leaving, but placed breakfast in front of Lumu. This is the breakfast I prepared for you myself. Lumu was stunned for a moment. Suddenly, I felt a smell of gunpowder floating in the air. The scene in front of them seemed to have turned into a battlefield, and the protagonists of the battlefield were Tsunade and Shizune. Could it be that I got into the Shira field? The corners of Lumu's mouth kept twitching. Today, I only met Tsunade Shizune the next day. What are these two doing? Are you kidding yourself? However, in order to confirm his idea, Lumu was ready to experiment. First, Lumu reached out to the breakfast prepared by Shizune. Suddenly, Shizune was like a kitten that got dried fish, with a happy expression on her face involuntarily. Tsunade's face showed the feeling of a tiger coming out of the mountain. It seemed that as long as Lumu dared to put down his hand, Tsunade would dare to tear Shizune next to her. Lumu swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He quickly moved his hand over the breakfast prepared by Tsunade. The originally excited Shizune kitten suddenly drooped its head and ears. There was an expression of grievance written all over his face. But Tsunade's face looked very indifferent. But Lumu, who was careful, noticed that Tsunade's legs couldn't help but tremble, and the corners of her mouth secretly raised. I was afraid that I would have been overjoyed for a long time. Lumu roared in his heart. I used to like multiple choice questions because no matter which one I chose, I had a 1/4 chance of being correct. But now Lumu was scared when faced with the multiple choice question in front of him. Because no matter which option is considered the correct answer, either one will make the other person sad. Then Lumu touched his hungry belly with a smile on his face. I'm not hungry for the moment, why don't I eat later? No, Tsunade and Shizune said in unison. Then he looked at the other party angrily, and the smell of gunpowder became stronger for a while. The best plan for the day is in the morning. If you don't eat breakfast, you will not be energetic all morning, and the whole day will be wasted. Tsunade urged. Lumu's mouth twitched. If I eat it today, I'm afraid I will be disabled for the rest of my life. Don't skip breakfast. After a night of digestion, your stomach is already empty. If you don't eat some breakfast, you will easily get stomach problems. Shizune also said quickly. Lu Musheng laughed helplessly. It's okay to skip breakfast for a day, but if you eat breakfast, you will definitely be admitted to an orthopedic hospital. Just when Lumu was about to be cornered, Jiraiya opened the door and walked in swaggeringly. When he saw 2 breakfasts on the table, there was an expression of surprise on his face. I happen to be hungry, so I won't be polite, Jiraiya said as he picked up the breakfast made by Tsunade and started eating it directly. But as soon as I took the first bite, a painful expression appeared on my face. Then he quickly vomited it out. Where did you buy this breakfast? It tastes so bad. The room suddenly became quiet. Tsunade will not take action against Shizune, but she will never be soft on Jiraiya. Now that the breakfast made by Tsunade was eaten, Tsunade instantly reached the edge of going berserk. Lumu couldn't help but give Jiraiya a thumbs up. This is the first time I see this kind of good person who burns himself and illuminates others. But let's be honest, just eat it, why do you have to vomit it up? Isn't it because he didn't die quickly enough? If he hanged himself, he had to swallow arsenic. But Jiraiya didn't seem to feel the danger coming. Once again, I picked up the breakfast made by Shizune and took a bite. As soon as breakfast was eaten, Jiraiya's eyes lit up. This breakfast is delicious. Where did you buy it? Since you bought such a delicious breakfast, why did you buy that portion? Isn't this a waste of money? Jiraiya said and took several more bites in succession. There was a happy expression on his face. At this time, Lumu put his hands together. He prayed for Jiraiya. I hope Jiraiya can reach the paradise world instead of the 18 levels of hell. This is simply a way to die. It was not enough to hang himself after drinking arsenic, but he also stabbed himself several times with a knife. Lumu couldn't help but shook his head. Jiraiya is afraid that he will not be able to go to the paradise, because people who commit suicide will be sent to the 18th level of hell. Is it delicious, Jiraiya? It's delicious. Tsunade, would you like to take a bite too? Upon hearing Jiraiya's answer, Tsunade raised her eyebrows and her face was completely distorted. A hint of murderous aura gradually emerged from his body. Jiraiya, I have something I want to talk to you about alone. Can you come out with me for a moment? Jiraiya's face lit up with joy. But when he saw Tsunade's twisted expression, she suddenly felt like she had fallen into an ice hole. It was even more dangerous than the last time Tsunade was sent to the hospital. I feel like if we have something to discuss here, maybe Lumu would also like to hear it. Jiraiya looked at Lumu for help. But at this time, Lumu was praying devoutly and did not notice Jiraiya's request for help at all. Yeah, I think it's better to go out for a while, Tsunade said, ignoring Jiraiya's resistance and directly dragged Jiraiya out. Only 10 long scratches were left on the ground. Boom. Bang bang. Boom. Suddenly the hotel was shaken. Those passengers who were still sleeping peacefully were awakened by the earthquake and ran out quickly. Those children who had no time to escape. He sat directly on the ground and cried in despair. The whole hotel was in complete chaos, like it was the end of the world. Not long after, Tsunade returned to the room contentedly, as if nothing had happened just now. But the blood on Tsunade's fist proved Jiraiya's miserable life. But when Tsunade sat next to Lumu, it's like a new person. With a hint of blush on her face and a helpless look, she was exactly the way a young girl would behave in front of her crush. Have a good journey, warrior. Lumu once again held a moment of silence for Jiraiya. But at this moment, Lumu stood up suddenly and ran out like crazy. Jiraiya's whole body was seen sunk into the ground. Like a stone, it got stuck in the body of Mother Earth. Pervy sage, are you dead? Hearing Lumu's call, Jiraiya opened his eyes tiredly, like a critically ill old man. Not dead, but almost. Lumu's mouth twitched. Part of the reason why he was willing to agree to Jiraiya was because of the system's mission. But mainly, it was because Jiraiya agreed to teach Lumu Sage Mode. But now Jiraiya is completely useless. I'm afraid I won't be able to leave the hospital in a few months, so who can I find to practice? Hey, pervy sage, what about the training you promised me before? Jiraiya laughed to himself, then tried to get myself moving. But no matter how hard he struggled, he only moved the fingers of his hands. Just wait, when I am healed, I will take you to Mount Myoboku. Lumu was almost crying. It took 100 days to break the muscles and bones, but Jiraiya might not be able to recover from his injury for several months. During this time, allow yourself to be with Tsunade Shizune. I'm afraid I'll go crazy sooner or later. Especially she was afraid that Tsunade would get drunk again and be forced to do something bad. But Lumu must give up this opportunity to practice Sage Mode. And a little unwilling. At this moment, Tsunade came out and said disapprovingly, Mount Myoboku. Are you practicing Sage Mode? Well, you can practice just like me in Shigu Forest. Shitbone Forest. Lumu's eyes suddenly lit up. The Shigi Bone Forest is also a place where you can practice Sage Mode. Moreover, Katsuyu Sage is the one who lives the longest among the 3 sages. The chakra in the body has reached an immeasurable existence. Even Tsunade and Haruno Sakura combined are not enough to channel the whole picture of Katsuyu Sage. Maybe the Wet Bone Forest will be better than Mount Myoboku. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.